Okay, the last thing I'm going to bring up, because we're talking about Cornell West, and this was going to be part of my trustee report, so I'm going to jump the gun a little bit. But I attended, actually, I attended most of these when I taught here, and I've attended a lot of them since I've been a trustee. I enjoy them, and I encourage a lot of students to attend. One thing that I think we could improve on is the community aspect of it. I love that faculty is there. I love that staff is there. I love that students are there. And I wish maybe the Student Equity Series could explore some way of including other members of the community somehow. I don't know what the legality is, or if they would need to pay, if, there's no way that it can be done. But I don't like seeing empty seats. And when you look out, the top half of our auditorium is empty. We've got seats that I think could be filled with people. And I posted having the opportunity to meet with Dr. West and with Mr. Jones on social media, and people in my district who are not students expressed an interest in participating. So maybe in the future, we can explore the possibility of inviting some of members of our community that don't have access to the college because they're not students or because they don't work here. And I don't know how difficult that would be, but if we could consider that, that would be great. And I think
we have to be careful because we're using student money. But I was under the impression that the event was sold out. So if there were empty seats, and this happens at weddings, it happens everywhere. People say they're going to come, and then maybe the next time you oversell the house. I used to drive my fundraisers crazy because I'd say, sell those seats, they're not going to show up. And that's usually what happens. So that might be something for the future.
If I can add, this was a new experience for the college, and some very well-meaning and excited faculty really wanted to make this happen. We've had a chance to revisit how this was done, what impact it had. I've certainly asked staff to relook at how we do this in the future. To your question, Trustee Malauulu, it would be very difficult to use student equity funds for events that are not directly targeted at our students. This was getting a little close to the line to begin with. So I think it's going to, this experience has given us the opportunity to revisit how we allocate those funds going forward, how we ensure that we clearly articulate the value that we're creating for the students. I do think that the faculty involved and the faculty in general did do a marvelous job to bring this dialogue to the classroom. We were oversubscribed before the event. We had lines of people who were waiting, and in the end of the day, like in most events, there were people who didn't show up. It's very difficult to ensure that people show up when they're not paying anything to attend an event.
Yeah.
So I do think we need to reevaluate how we do this going forward, and I think that process has already begun. We've had lengthy discussions about what worked, what didn't work, and I would expect that that the next round we will be much more intentional about how we do this and much more clear. And quite frankly, I don't expect that you'll see another expenditure like this coming this direction.
Okay. Trustee Otto? Thank you.
Could Vice President Long or President Oakley explain a little bit about what the student equity funds are, where they come from? Are they out of our general fund, or this is part I understand of a legislative initiative that targets equity as a very important part of this. Of when we talk about student success, we talk about success with equity, but I'm not so sure that everybody understands that. Forget the issue of cost.
I'll have Dr. Long explain how it's being administered on campus, but in general, the legislature and the governor approved funding to the California community colleges that is set aside through categorical funds that are supposed to target closing of equity gaps that exist between students who are disproportionately impacted. So Dr. Long, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Bagg, and the team have been working over the years with the Student Equity Committee to determine the disproportionate impact that exists at Long Beach City College. So the first thing the funds are designed to do is to make sure that colleges are doing an analysis of all their student demographics and determining where the disproportionate impacts are, and then the funds are required to be used to close those gaps. So there are a lot of activities going on. This is one of many, but I'd let Dr. Long expand on how the Student Equity Committee is working on campus.
So we are actually doing some changes in terms of process, but the point here is that we have the money for faculty to propose projects or activities that they believe will help close those equity gaps for our disproportionately impacted students. For example, we've created an accelerated linked English class where you can complete 2 English classes in 1 semester, and we're finding greater success overall and greater success for our disproportionately impacted students. We're also continuing the use of ALEX. You had a presentation earlier this year about using ALEX software in our math classes and seeing how much more successful those students are. It's like a flipped classroom, if you will. So we've funded a lot of that work, a lot of the work with the alternative kind of learning environment with the math department. The speaker series, of course, is another thing that we've done. We're supporting programs like the Foster Youth Program, the Veterans Program, to provide more support for those students so that they have that constant touch, if you will, for their continued success in their coursework towards their degree completion. So we have allowed faculty and staff to put proposals forward, and the Student Equity Committee evaluates those proposals and makes a recommendation to Greg and I with respect to funding. We take that to the executive committee. So the funding is less of an issue for the committee, but the committee is evaluating projects that they believe will help us close those equity gaps. And we have, Luann just mentioned to me, we have like 10 pages of projects that we've funded over the last couple years that we've used student equity funds for.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, the dollar amount of the student equity funds that we received from Sacramento?
2.4 million, I believe, is the total amount.
And President Baxter, can I
It's
just,
every year.
I don't mean, and I'm going to be brief. I don't want to discourage faculty and staff and our students from doing this great work. I think the caliber of people that we're inviting is at a national level, and it's fantastic. I would like to see a little bit more caution, and I'm sure it's being exercised as far as the distribution of the money that we have. But I have every confidence in you in doing so. It's just I'm glad you clarified some of these points for me, especially since the attendees, the students got a book from it, and they can, it can have an endless impact in their lives. And it's something that is of value for them. So I appreciate that, and I think you've satisfied all my concerns.
Thank you. We had a motion by Trustee Otto, seconded by Trustee Malauulu to approve.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg,
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu,
Aye.
Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. 5.1, LBCCE AFT appointment to the Personnel Commission.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Otto. Is there any discussion?
I just want to congratulate Mr. Intuk for his nomination and for his service, and look forward to having him on the Personnel Commission again this time around.
Okay, just so the public knows, we are appointing Mr. Uduak Joe Intuk to the Personnel Commission. He is continuing on the Personnel Commission until December 1st, 2019.
They're not.
No, we're confirming his appointment.
AFT.
The classified staff.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. 6.1, Academic Senate.
Thank you, President Baxter. I present item 6.1 for the board for approval.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Otto, seconded by trustee Zia.
I have a question, President Baxter.
Sure, please.
As far as the associate degrees, so can you please help me understand, Ms. Kane, what are we doing here? And perhaps in your reports or when we're presenting, if you can give some context, because some of us may not be as familiar. Are we removing a non-credit course and adding a credit course for nursing? Is that what this is about?
No, Trustee Zia, we are removing a non-credit course, but we did not add any credit course. This was a course that's been sitting on the degree for quite some time, and no students were enrolling in it. It was no longer valid or valuable to the degree. So the department asked that it be removed, and then it went through the curriculum process.
And as far as the AS degree, so the LVN to RN career ladder, we're offering a associate degree instead of a certificate of achievement. Am I reading that correctly? Or is it the other way around? There's the LVN to RN career ladder that you have listed
Right.
here.
That is a degree. It's the degree title.
Okay, so you have both a degree and a certificate for that.
No, so it's a revised associate in science degree, and the title is LVN to RN career ladder.
Okay, I'm completely confused then. You have a revised degree listed as associate degree.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, okay, so then there's also a revised certificate of achievement, also LVN to RN career ladder. I'm sorry, yeah.
I see. So we're offering two options. One is the associate degree from an LVN to RN career ladder degree, and then also a certificate of achievement.
Correct.
And what's the distinction between the two?
The degree would have more units and would be probably transferable as well, but the certificate is something that would allow a student to go out to work sooner before the degree.
And how many? What's the difference in this in the number of units?
The certificate of achievement is over 18 units. I'm not sure of the exact number, but it has to be over 18 to be a certificate of achievement. And the degree is 60 units.
Okay, so the degree for LVN to RN career ladder is 60. Is that what it is for this degree?
Yes.
And then how many units is it for the certificate of achievement for LVN to RN?
I can look that up, but it has to be 18 or more, and we'll look that up and let you know.
Sure.
Because I don't know the exact units. I don't have that in front of me.
Right. It would just be great to have that level of specificity in these reports, just for personally for my edification. I don't know the distinction, and
Okay.
to be able to better approve the.
Noted.
degrees. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, trustee Malauulu.
I have a question, but it's not regarding any of the agenda items. So perhaps after we approve it, it's an academic question.
What's the procedure for that?
Once you move on the items,
Yeah, no, but when should she ask
it
her
would-
question? At the end, or?
well, if it's a question related to an agenda item, then now. If it's not a question related to the agenda item,
After we vote.
technically, you can't raise a question that's not related to an agenda item.
I'll
Could
do
you
it
do
in
it
my
during her
report.
board report?
Yeah, you can raise.
Yeah, okay. Okay, could we call the roll, please? It's been moved by trustee Otto, seconded by trustee Zia.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Absent. Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
And now 6.2, new modified and inactivated courses.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Zia, seconded by trustee Otto. Is there any discussion?
Just a question on, as presume it's kinesiology 4AD. The lab is at 10 units? I don't,
It's a variable unit course, the Kenya 4AD, that's Kinesiology Intercollegiate Athletics. It's a preseason training for athletes, something that had to be created due to the repeatability issue. So if an athlete is gray shirting, red shirting, they ran out of the ability to be in the class. So this is a new course to pick that up. It's 10 hours per week. It's not 10 units, 10 hours. So, and it could be offered from a half a unit to 3 units, depending on the need of the particular sport in the off season.
and TUs are,
Teaching units, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, could we have the roll, please?
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Aye. Vivian Malauulu.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
I,
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. 7.1, 2016-17 legislative report, Superintendent President Oakley.
Yes, we have a quick legislative report to just summarize some of the actions that have occurred in the most recent legislative session. We can't give you a final vote count on Prop 55 yet, but we'll stay tuned for that one. So for the rest of it, I'll turn it over to Miles Demmett.
Thank you, President Oakley, and good evening, everyone. So, as the President mentioned, I wanted to give you a brief review of the legislative session, but I wanted to do a couple other things as well tonight. We've had some conversations offline, some of us, about SB 415, which is a bill from the last legislative session. I certainly want to provide an opportunity to talk about that tonight. I also want to talk briefly about the state political outlook next year, just some things happening in Sacramento that I think are relevant to us. And then also spend some time on some items that are relevant on the federal level, and then end with some advocacy opportunities that are coming up for you all to lend your voices to these issues. So California operates on a 2-year legislative session. We had 5,000 bills in this last session, over 2,600 this year alone. The ones that made their way to the governor's desk, there were 32 community college bills that were signed by him and 9 that were vetoed. I'm not going to go over all of those tonight. I do have a list of them. If you want them, I could certainly email them to you. But I just want to cover a few that he signed that I think that we were watching or that are relevant to the college. So the first one is AB 2364 by Chris Holden out of LA. This is titled Community Colleges Exemption from Non-Resident Tuition. What it does is require the community colleges in California to exempt special part-time students who are participating in dual enrollment programs, exempt them from non-resident tuition. So this isn't going to have a particular impact on Long Beach City College. As you may know, we have a prior statute that gave us authority to enter into special agreements with our school district, but this is affecting other colleges, and I didn't want there to be any confusion about it if you read anything about it. Secondly, we talked about this bill before. The shower bill is how it's been referred to. Doss Williams is AB 1995, not 55. I have a typo there. I'm sorry. This bill was introduced to provide students who are homeless an opportunity to take showers on their community college campus if that campus has shower facilities. The bill was amended at the end of session to afford that opportunity to any student. So this is something that we are able to deal with. Students at Long Beach City College have been using our showers for a long time, so they're not going to just start now. But the bill does require us to develop a plan to implement this bill, and Vice President Peterson and Acting Superintendent President Gable are working on that. So if there's additional questions about this bill specifically, I'll defer to them. The third bill I wanted to mention, and this is another one that we reviewed a few months ago, is SB 66. This bill is about accountability. So it's one of the many accountability bills related to public higher education in California. And it's aligning the state's career technical education reportable outcomes with those on the federal level. It also would allow the Department of Consumer Affairs to report licensure outcomes to the state within these programs. So it's just really an effort to add a little bit additional accountability to these programs and create some alignment with the federal government. One that I think we all know about is AB 1741 by our very own Assemblymember Patrick O'Donnell. Another co-author on that was Freddie Rodriguez, and this is the bill that creates a $15 million fund for existing or new college promise initiatives to get off the ground. There's more news to come on this bill. The State Community College Chancellor's Office will be administering it, and there are still details to be figured out. But as that happens, we will keep you in the loop. And it's really a huge victory in California, and we recognized Patrick O'Donnell at our celebration recently for his efforts on this bill, and it will provide some necessary funding to several districts. SB 1029 by Bob Hertzberg, this essentially requires community college districts to have a debt policy. There's other things it does. If there's questions on it, I'm going to defer to Vice President, incoming President Gable. But we wanted to include that one on here too, because we do have debt at Long Beach City College, a large bond program, as you know. So lastly, AB 1602, every year when the budget gets hashed out and decisions are made after the legislative session, the Assembly and Senate need to do some cleanup on certain issues. And so there are several things in the Assembly cleanup bill that I wanted you to know about. One, strong workforce money is included in 1602. The zero textbook cost degree pilot authority is in there. And the awards for innovation, the second round of awards for innovation are in there. And we've had many conversations about those awards, and Long Beach City College is gearing up to submit another grant application on that. So not bills, but two initiatives that you all took action on and that we've been watching for you are relevant. There's 17 initiatives, as you might know, two that would particularly affect us. So Prop 51, which is the facilities bond, that would fund two projects at this campus and one at the Pacific Coast campus. And then 55, of course, has provided a significant amount of revenue to colleges and universities in California, and we've been a benefit of that. So we're looking at those tonight. So going back in history a little bit to last year, Senator Ben Hueso out of San Diego introduced legislation that was titled Voter Participation. But what 415 really does is it tries to align the state's general election date with political subdivision election dates. So that includes cities and counties, community college districts, school districts. So the bill requires this alignment by January 1st of 2022. If we don't have those dates aligned by the end of next year, we need to have a plan that says we're going to do so by 2022. But there's a lot of little nuances to this bill. One, typically when legislation like this is enacted, charter cities are precluded. There's some uncertainty about that this time around, and Long Beach is a charter city. So we are in conversations with the city, we're in conversations with the school district. We all agree that we need to stay together and be aligned for the benefit of the voters and the citizens of Long Beach. But we still are waiting on that ruling as to whether or not charter cities do have to comply. So the Attorney General is slated to offer an opinion on that in the next couple of months. So after our conversation tonight, I'm going to ask that we sort of parking lot the conversation until we hear back from the Attorney General, and then we can move forward. I will tell you that at the end of the day, community colleges have to comply. We are not part of the charter. So we know we're going to have to comply. We just need to wait for our partners in the school district and the city to determine if they have to comply and what timeline they might be able to work under, and then I think we can come to an agreement. So a couple comments on what's happening up in Sacramento. I think, as you know, revenue is down this year. Notwithstanding Prop 55, that's going to have an impact on higher education if it continues, or potentially could. There's also the unique circumstance in the Senate where several higher education leaders are termed out. So the chair of the Senate Budget Subcommittee, the chair of the Senate Budget Subcommittee number 1 on education, and the chair of the Senate Education Committee are all leaving. And so we have vacancies on these committees that really impact the work that we do every day. And these are relationships that we have. So we'll be watching this. We'll certainly reach out to whoever gets those seats, introduce ourselves, let them know that we're looking forward to working with them in their terms. And of course, we have an election coming up, and we know that that's going to have an impact on everything. So I wanted to talk real briefly about what's happening on the federal level. The year-round Pell is the issue that continues to occupy space in the higher education community. It is very important for us. If year-round Pell came back, it would provide a significant benefit to the types of students we serve in an urban community, in a large college. So this is really important to the entire community, and we continue to look at it. There's a lot of bipartisan support on this issue in an environment where there's not a lot of bipartisan support, and so there's still hope, and there's even hope that potentially something can happen in the lame duck session. So we'll keep watching this, we'll keep lending our voice to it when appropriate, and talking about it every time we can. Another issue that I wanted to just put on your radar, if it's not already, is the issue of campus demographic designations. Right now, we're a Hispanic serving institution. That is great, and it comes with additional resources so we can better serve our students. But there's other designations out there that we can't get because the federal government limits each college to one. And the one in particular is, it goes by the acronym of ANAPISI, which is Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institutions. We would qualify very quickly for that based on the percentage of that population we serve. And so this is also something that's been brought to the HELP committee, that is discussed with congressional offices and by higher ed groups in DC, and I'll keep my eye on it, and if we can, we'll continue to try to advocate for that change to happen. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that America's College Promise hopefully is a campaign that continues. We intend to contact the new administration, whichever administration that is after tonight, and continue this conversation about free community college and making community college the default credential for students in this nation. We've obviously done so much work on that front, particularly because of our president, Eloy Oakley, and we don't want to lose ground in that sense. And so that's something that we'll keep looking at. So to end with, there's some upcoming advocacy opportunities that are probably on your calendars, but I just want to mention again tonight. The League's annual conference is coming up in January. So that's a conference and advocacy day. I know some of you will want to attend and will want to meet beforehand to talk about issues and maximize our time in Sacramento. And then the same in DC with the annual ACCT conference. So if those aren't on your calendar, make a note of them, and we'll certainly be talking more about them when the time comes. So that's it from me. I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
I have one, but does somebody else want to start first? Trustee Kellogg?
No, I just, in that one, the interesting one, because the year-round Pell, that's going to be critical with the federal government. But the 415, or the voter participation, I think it's ironic that when I first noticed other districts, what they were doing and how they were reacting to it, and the fact we're a charter city, and as you mentioned, it is really the city that's really going to lead this as we follow. But it was either 4 or 6 years ago, there was a local initiative on the ballot here in Long Beach, and that was to consolidate the elections, and that lost by a large margin. That people wanted to keep the local elections separate from the national so they could stay focused on it. So I think it's ironic that here the voters of Long Beach addressed that issue 4 or 6 years ago. It was Council Member Johnson, who I think was really at the lead on that. And I'm not sure if the mayor was involved or not, but nonetheless, I thought it was a little bit interesting, the fact that this came before the voters of Long Beach, and their desire was clearly stated. But again, sometimes local control or local initiatives are not really the concern of Sacramento, and all in the name of voter participation. But so it was dealt with here a short time ago, but we're now going to have to address it because Sacramento is telling us to. So it'll be curious to see how it all plays out. We do have time, though. It's not immediate.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
report, though. Thank you.
Anyone else? I wanted to thank Trustee Otto for bringing up the 415 bill, because having him at the Sacramento level as a state officer of CCCT is very valuable to us. So I just wanted to say thank you.